All right, kids. I believe, we're live now. And whenever things aren't going your way, this is all you really can do. Just live in the moment. Embrace the suck. It's not going to last forever. It's just how life is. It's not going to be easy. How are you all tonight? It is March the 1st. We are done. D-U-N with February 2021. Hopefully all of you had a great weekend. I was wanting to do this last night, but I had a lot of fun watching Ords' stream, and one of my neighbors kind of got into some stuff that caused me a little bit of a contact high. And just try to get my eyes to... Is that red enough for you? Do I look like a dude? All right. So anyway, I passed out. I passed out hard last night at about 11:30. And I wanted to do this after Ords was finished with his big stream. And I love Ords' gaming streams, his chill streams. Come on out, guys. Come on. This was a good time. It's always a good time to do that with Ords. Anyway, my name is Bruce Lombardo, and I am the author of this here book, Shift Elijah's Story. That is young Alexa Causey. I don't know where she's at now. I think somewhere in Miami. She went down there to build brands and model. Wish her the best of luck. She was a Fort Worth native and found her through a modeling agency, and she agreed to do the cover shoot for this. I still have some money to give her. If I ever bump into her again, I will. Anyway, so we're back with Elijah, and he just got done saying something rather snippy to his missus, Sheila, and it's not looking like it's going to work out too well for him. It's not going to be smooth. Let's get back. Okay. Grick huffs and drags the candy striper in the closet. Setting her down, she stirs. He pulls the collars opposite of each other, and while she struggles to pull his hands off her, he grins. She finally stops moving, and a minute later, he shuts the closet door. Pausing by the mirror, he fixes the uniform and tries to look as official as possible. The bra gets in the way, plus the straps are visible. He reaches inside the blouse and pulls it out to throw it on his bed. He pokes his head outside, wearing the candy striper's costume. The state trooper isn't paying attention to the door, but instead flirting with a nurse. Grick lopes out the door, causing many on the floor to gasp in humor. He growls while somersaulting through a set of legs. Ow, 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 this shit hurts. He complains about his shoulder. He manages to get his arms and legs underneath him and starts pawing through Barnes Hospital with minimal effort. The Missouri State Trooper spins around and pulls his 9mm to the ready. Freeze! Grick breaks into a run, leaping closer to the others in the hall. The officer can't get a clear shot off at him. Every chance he can, he puts one more person between him and the state trooper, and he hears the law enforcement official swear audibly. The state trooper's quick to move after him, putting the gun in the holster while he tries to sidestep everybody in his way. The human's actually quite nimble, not unlike his prey. Grick sees movement to his right, and the doors from the OR burst open. Two more badges join the chase against him. Grick hears one getting close, and he sees a tray on the counter. On this tray is loose items like scissors and syringes and a doctor's knife. Grick slows down for a moment so he can hear the spittle coming close to his ear from the woman officer behind him. She leaps at Grick. Grick slams his fist down on the tray, sending the three items up into her trajectory. She covers her face with her arms and manages to land them properly with a snapping sound in her elbow. Grick plants his foot on a hospital cart, springing that onto the counter. He continues to run full tilt. Ahead of him is a nurse's station. He jumps through the half window and does a forward flip to the floor. He slams the half window shut and hears the two pursuers impact it, pounding on it with their fists. Looks about, he's alone. A woman's voice screams at him from the other side of the glass. You parkour-using motherfucker, I'm going to kick your ass. Grick latches the window shut, Thankfully, you're not only armed, you're an idiot for not opening the window. The first state police officer that was chasing him comes in through a side door in the nurse's office. He feels good to see the goblin look at him with surprise and fear. Grick jumps, planting one foot on the officer's knee. He puts the other foot into the crotch of his pursuer. Despite the scream of pain, Grick pulls the officer forward with one arm. On the way down here, he leaves the holster of the occupying pistol. The assault seriously unbalances the officer and he collapses. Grick does a handspring and vaults off the nurse's station. In the hallway, he knows the other woman officer will approach from his left. He has his gun at the ready, and when he sees the ugly polyester uniform display itself from around the corner, he blasts through the knee. She collapses forward, and he sidesteps her, plummet to the tiled floor. Grick grimaces in pain, his wound still healing from the sniper round. He rolls over his left shoulder, coming up quickly. He aims his pistol and fires 2 rounds. One smashes through a Starbucks coffee cup. One takes out the officer trying to get a bead on one angry goblin. He flops to the ground, holding his neck but unable to staunch the wildly spurting blood. Grick stumbles through a door while trying to move and gain his balance. He finds a stairwell. He tumbles down, head over heels onto the railing. On the landing, he comes to a rest. His head is facing the stairwell down, his chest and hips facing the wall, his ankles bending back, almost in his vision. "Fuck my life," he weakly states. Downstairs, he hears people hurrying up the flights to meet him. He pushes a thought of safety and surrender to the side, a thought of him being experimented on by a horse doctor with a double-barrel shotgun, paces behind his staff. "You ain't gonna find out what makes Grick tick." He paws his way, running all fours, then he's leaping down to the next landing. Through the doors, he pushes into the ICU. The sound of machines and rigmarole greets him with every set of eyes turning his way to see a goblin in a candy striper uniform, huffing and puffing like he just left 2 of the 3 pigs homeless. "Don't mind me." "Hey, Hetty." "Hello." "Don't mind me." He tries to bluff his way past a nurse with a clipboard. He reaches onto the smock pocket and pulls from it a Tootsie Roll Pop and hands it to the first stretcher-bound individual he sees. It's an elderly woman with no teeth. She smiles out of necessity and takes the candy. "That's the ugliest fucking candy striper I've ever seen, Martha," one old man states. "Shut up, Elmer. It's not nice to make fun of the little people." "You mean a football head-looking motherfucker?" Grick for a moment remembers that not everyone is gunning for him. He tries to hurry his steps. Can't stay here. In the stairwell, the security officer of Barnes Hospital doesn't look hard enough through the window to see Grick mulling about with the infirm. "Come on," he's further up. Missouri State Police officer behind him states, "He's on 6. This is 5. "You think he's on this floor?" the officer asks his companion. Both continued down after an exchange of sarcastic glances and raised eyebrows. Grick makes his way to the other end of the floor, finding that he's out of suckers to pass out in those hallways. "I need to restock downstairs." A doctor looks at him briefly while panning through vitals of a patient. Fine. Grick makes his way to the elevators on the east side of the building. He passes by the internal use elevators, those used by staff to ferry corpses through the building. The entire time, he's whistling the tune, The Final Countdown. The entire time, he notes that nobody pays him a second glance. Even those that have a radio, hearing a chatter about him, don't pay him any mind. Grick has an obscenely large lollipop in his hand he gathered from one of the rooms on his way here. An intern joins him on the chorus for the whistling. A lanky human male starts crooning, and Grick is able to maintain key even though the man can't carry a tune. Grick gives him a thumbs up. This has a lasting effect through the ICU until Grick makes his way to the elevators for public use and presses a down arrow. The door opens, a doctor and security officer see him and immediately lunge for him. Grick manages to smash the security guard in the face with the candy while evading the doctor. The doctor's outstretched arms keep him off balance long enough for Grick to pull the officer out of the elevator and hop back in. The doctor hurls himself in while the doors are closing. In the ICU, one old man turns to his wife on a stretcher. I thought hell is freezing over if that was a law-abiding candy striper. Shut up, Elmer. In the elevator, the medical professional kicks his knee up, smashing into the goblin's chin. He brings his elbow down on the head of the demi-human, but does it wrong and jars his funny bone. Screaming in pain, he loses the advantage. The goblin grins, jumping up and kneeing the doctor in the groin. Grick spits blood off to the side and then bites him as hard as he can in the pectorals. The screams of the doctor are horrible, blood-curdling affairs. Grick makes his way to the top of the elevator. Closing the grate, he looks down to see the doctor unconscious and bloody. He leaps to the service ladder in the shaft and waits for the elevator to start moving again. It passes him on its way up. After counting to 30, he grabs the sides of the ladder and slides down. The cables stop moving. Grick presses the emergency open button on the panel. The sirens in the shaft, along with the rest of the Barnes Hospital, begin their klaxon call. The dim lights in the shaft maintain their color. Echoes of the wailing alarms reverberate in the metal shaft with a concrete bottom. Grick's displeasure is evident. Why not just turn the fucking lighting red everywhere and say, fuck me? The doors open. Patients are being escorted and wheeled outside, or somewhere else at the least. The orderlies are doing what they can to follow procedure. Nurses with clipboards and PDAs stroll past the open elevator entrance with nary a glance due to the pink coloration of the uniform. Grick's head sachets from side to side, and he strolls out to join the crowd. He puts 3 steps towards the exit doors and screams in pain. His raspy voice blubbers through the vowel sounds. A halfling security guard, standing just out of field of view from inside the elevator, steps out from the hall. 2 lines run from the goblin's backside to the taser in his hands. He keeps pulling that trigger. Grick manages to piss himself instead of saying what he thinks. The surrounding staff didn't even see the guard and are amazed by this event during the emergency. While they all back up, forming a partial semicircle, voices of authority bellow, "Move to the exit! This is not a drill!" The halfling cues his microphone. I got him. He doesn't stop pulling the trigger. Fry, bitch. Stepping forward, he hears a taser taking up slack from the lines. Grick jostles. Nobody messes with my hospital. He keeps pulling the trigger. Grick, in intense pain, through tears, he can only see the halfling in the tiled floor. A white sleeve bats the device from his hands. Edmund, that's enough! Edmund sees his first shift supervisor, a tall blonde human female wielding authority like a club. Una, cuff him. She looks down at the uniformed officer. I expect you to behave in a fashion that won't get us letters from a third world nation saying we should lead torture seminars for Arab countries. The alarms continue to warble at their highest. Edmund's face scrunches up, a typical expression for halflings not getting their way. Don't give me that face, mister. Do your job and do it lawfully. She cues her microphone. Subject apprehended. Entry hall by admissions. Roger, comes the reply. Keep an eye on him. She watches the unhappy security officer properly detain the goblin. You both can go to hell and die. Grick says this while he's brought to his feet. Edmund raises his eyebrows as the detainee flinches. I'm loving this spooky stuff. Well, I'm glad you are, Hetty. This is why I'm doing this. I'm hoping that I craft an audience that does like the material that I've written in the past, and you have something to enjoy. 9:17 a.m. Central Standard Time. Elijah looks at the Flying J truck stop sign. Do you like turkey and bacon omelets? The crossroads town of Effingham, Illinois is 4 miles away from their current location. Sheila doesn't answer. Elijah glances over to her. Her blood vessels along her sinus cavity are flushed. Her mouth, usually in a grin or smirk, is instead fighting a trembling set of lips. He puts his hand on hers and continues driving. Making the bend towards the north, he nods his head. A large white cross stands along the interstate on a frontage road. It towers above the agricultural park below. Can we see that? Sheila bites her lip. Yeah. Elijah follows the brown signs and in minutes is parking the VW. The car answers, so the parking brake activation with a grinding sound that makes both Elijah and Sheila wince. She steps out. For moments, she stands by the car, not sure if she should wait for the half-orc. Finally, she heads for the monument. Elijah sits in the driver's seat. He keeps his eyes fixated on the large white cross. It's been a long time since I've cared to talk to you, he thinks to himself. Down the steps, Elijah creeps, past a small alcove, the statue of former President Obama. He makes sure his feet don't brush the plaque on the dais. Here in Knoxville, Tennessee, May 3rd of 2012, President Barack Hussein Obama gave his speech on sacrifice in the American way. The lights in the basement of Tower 1 are dim and flickering. Some of the CFLs are not functioning properly. Elspeth cries softly in the next room. Please stop, please. The womanly half-orc tries to wiggle her hands free of the bonds. She looks around the basement of the apartment complex, but it's just her and the two young men and a row of unusable laundry machines. The black male puts a gag around her head, cramming some of it in her mouth. Would you shut that whore mouth of yours? She closes her eyes, trying to block out the inevitable reality. When do you want to start recording? Another young man asks. He holds a Canon handheld in his beefy hands. The camera looks so tiny. Jim, start now, dumbass. Well, fuck you, Jim replies to accomplice. You should have told me, B. Don't say my name. I don't want her to identify me during a lineup. Jim hoists the camera to a proper stance. His street name is up. Hey, Lamar. Yes, thank you, Bruce. Thank you for sharing your talent. Well, I appreciate the fact you enjoy it. I had gotten bored with television, and so I'd started writing. Elspeth hasn't opened her eyes since she closed them a minute ago. Up drops his jeans a little bit and goes around to her backside. He grabs her large breast forcefully. You're built like a black woman. Do you know that? Elspeth doesn't respond. I'd ask you a question. Elspeth nods, agreeing. She opens her eyes, tears starting to pour down her face. Jim grins, running one hand down to his pants and grabbing his package in anticipation. She looks up at the flannelly clad young man. Up yanks her khaki pants down, letting them rest around her meaty calves. You're actually built really well. If you weren't a fucking orc, I'd want to pound you daily. You turned on, right? Jim agrees. Finish your shit. I want some of that. She's trying to scream, feeling something probing on her backside. Jim zooms in on his friend's hands, groping her breast like a deviant. Bend her over. Her hips look great. Right? Up shoves her forward and plants himself firmly behind her. Oh, dude, this feels great. And Elspeth continues to cry. From her perspective, this isn't great at all. Jim continues recording, not paying attention to the surroundings. He doesn't see the lead pipe coming around to crack him in the shoulder. He cries out in pain, dropping the camera and stumbling to the side. Up didn't see it either. He shoves her down, leaving him partially nude with an accusatory penis pointing at Elijah when he steps into the tiny shaft of light. You want some of this? Elijah climbs the clubs up in the neck, sending him to the ground. Ignoring his pleas and anguished cries, Elijah takes 3 swings at him to finish him off. Jim stirs, causing both Elijah and Elspeth to focus on him for a moment. Elijah's blood-splattered face is twisted into a rage, and he looks more fiendish than orc or human. Please, man. Jim's upraised hands don't stop the pipe from breaking 2 ribs. After the 4th hit, Elspeth whimpers. Elijah mutters, shit. He drops a pipe and pulls her gag off her head. Behind him, the final breaths of a dying man pass. Thank you. She doesn't look at him. He nods, starting to shake uncontrollably. To busy himself, he starts trying to go through the two men's hands. After finding no rings on them, he sees that Jim wore a necklace. Pulling off the human, Elijah sees it's a cross and a gold chain. Fuck me. Doesn't mean shit, Eli. Elspeth twitches, rubbing herself and then mentally chafing herself for doing such a thing. Elijah sits down. Can we leave? Elspeth glances down for a few moments. Elijah says, yeah. He puts a cellular phone from his pocket. After a few seconds, he says into it, the towers, I need you over here. What are you doing? I'm doing cleanup. She laughs for a moment, letting the tears roll down her face. And Elijah laughs too. The adrenaline shakes, taking over his hands unconsciously. Elijah's hands shake from the memory as he thinks for a moment, the cross in front of him, making him think of the momentary remorse for killing a rapist. He would have kept doing that to young women. Walk clean, Elijah. He steps out of the car, kneels by Sheila. For moments, he hears her voice pleading in prayer. He knows some of her hurts and concerns. After he finishes purging himself, he feels a wash of emotions and basks in them mentally. He doesn't want to stand. He continues to kneel at the monument. Sheila's voice makes him open his eyes. I need to pee. Fine. He stands up and looks one last time at the cross. It's all he can do when viewing such monuments. Sheila puts one hand on his shoulder. He wraps his arm around her waist. Flying J has omelets. When they step back in the VW, the newscast is on the radio. Sheila rummages around her bag while the car is headed back to the truck stop. A woman's voice dominates the conversation. All I'm asking is that we have a birth certificate for the dragon, or some legal piece saying Linneticky is a legal resident of this nation. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, a man replies. What if this dragon is more red than we want to believe? Have you heard its plan for the economy? She retorts. Anne, holster your gun. Another man in the studio scoffs at her. Sheila pulls an iPod from her bag. Can you believe I actually found it? Elijah scoffs. Plug it in. I hate politics. She looks at the dashboard, doesn't see a plug-in for an auxiliary device. Anne replies, do you two remember the Dragon Siege on Cincinnati? Were you two old enough to remember the Roebling Bridge getting decimated? Sheila changes the station as the VW pulls into a parking lot. You have a lot to catch up with listening. Interesting. Jesus smiles, listening to the point and counterpoint from Decatur, Illinois station WSOY. As Anne verbally spars with Brian and Kyle, he can feel his inner strength returning while driving along the plains of southern Illinois. Earlier, he ethereally jaunted from his corpse. Doing this taxed him, and by doing something he considered relaxing as driving, he can feel his body healing from the endeavor. Ahead of him, Marco and Eldon ride along in their own car. So why do you think Jesus really likes to ride alone? Eldon asks. He probably listens to sports talk radio. He's one of those odd guys that likes to hear about winners all the time, You think he digs the gringo baseball? No, he probably just follows boxing like good Mexicans. He's a type of guy that gets into those ugly fights. Mixed martial arts, you mean? No, he is some sort of discipline. Not two drunks beating the shit out of each other. Marco pulls a menthol out of the ashtray and shoves it between his lips. How long will Tiffany let us have him? As long as it takes to get the cake. Marco presses the car lighter into his cigarette. Elijah looks at the female restroom door and waits for Sheila to step out. When she does, she smiles at him, and his stomach does a turn. You waited for me at the door? Elijah looks over his shoulder. I don't want one of these truckers offering you a ride elsewhere. Jealous? She shoves a hand into the mane of her hair, smiling with delicious glee. Actually, I just bought you some clothes. New underwear, some good capri pants. Figured that you'd want to have that after you shower. He holds up a gaudy wooden rod with a key attached to it. In the shower, he waits for her to finish before he has his. How did you pay for all this? Change from the ashtray in the VW. There's about 70 in quarters in the back ashtray, and usually I have some running around money for my boss. But he's an ass, so I have to hunt for it. What's his name? Anthony. I hate that name. Is he a spick? No, he's a dago. Hey, hun, can you come in here with me and hit my back? Your VW seats really hurt me. Elijah undresses quickly. Oh, I can sit down anytime. Minutes later, he's in front of the mirror, pulling his cargo pants on. Where's my hooded sweatshirt? Spinning around, she's leaning against the wall while putting her shoes on. The hooded sweatshirt is in her hands. I wasn't in the mood to wear a t-shirt emblazoned with the word unity on it. Well, I can't wear it. It'll be tighter on me than an orange in an Iowa Hooters girl. She pulls a shirt over her head. You don't have a bra on. Well, neither do you. She pinches his nipple. Elijah smiles. He looks at the hooded sweatshirt on her and feels her wrap around him. For all your asshole, you're my chocolate starfish, Elijah. When she pulls away from him, he smiles. Fuck you. He pulls on a plain white tee and fastens his shoelaces. After turning in the shower key, he puts his arm out and she hooks hers into it. They walk to a two-person booth and sit. The waitress walks up to the table, sizing up both of her new customers before she asks for anything. She smiles before anything else. Seeing their smiles, she thinks, $5 tip if I'm lucky. Elijah looks at a human woman standing with a clipboard. Her name tag says Ella. She has gum in her mouth. What can I get you folks for breakfast? Before he can speak, Sheila blurts out, 2 steak omelets, 2 coffees, 2 OJs, no flapjacks. Elijah's head snaps to the brown-haired woman. Well, what can I have to eat? Monty looks at his watch, draped over the pencil holder at his desk. 10:59 a.m. Hey, Skip, what are we having for lunch? Red Robin. Alan Richardson, a mid-level field agent, crouches down by Monty's desk. Looking at the monitor, which is a satellite shot of the pursuit around St. Louis, he winces. I have a lead for you. Monty looks at the agent. Hit me. Alan pulls a keyboard to access it and enters the Missouri State Department of Motor Vehicles. Entering a license plate in a search field, he pulls up a photo of a VW Bug. Monty gasps. Fucking kidding me, right? Alan scrolls through the information. Even Half-Orc owned. Granted, he's been a corpse for less than a week, but Missouri won't give a shit about it unless a vehicle is found at a crime scene. Then they'll get upset. I'll get the interstate network looking for this. The cameras will find it and report it ASAP unless there's debris on the plate. That sometimes throws everything off. How are you sure that this entire incident is involved with my guy? It's a convenient hunch. Convenient hunch, Monty. The owner was found 6 days ago, 2 rounds to the chest and 1 to the head. No, that really doesn't sound like my outfit. What was the last thing that you knew about your guy? Well, he's hauling reds. So he's back to cigarettes. Monty's mind recalls a recorded phone conversation from 3 years ago. He doesn't respond verbally to Alan. Well, maybe he likes Barbara, Monty. Alan's lips turn into a small smile. Skip comes out of the bathroom. The three CPD detectives with nearby desks immediately get up and leave. He saunters over to Monty's desk and looks at Alan. Hey, Richie. What's up, barbecue? Skip chuckles. Jesse's getting big. Alan turns to look at the proud father. I'm just giving your boy a bone to hunt. Skip nods. I still want Red Robin. Sounds good. Monty looks back at the screen. Alan heads off to his own desk, which has a layer of dust on it. The fuck is he doing back here? I don't know, Skip. It smells, though. We'll watch him. Monty looks at Skip, who has yet to take his eyes off Richardson. Hey, Skip, are you still pissed that he made a pass at your wife? Alan disappears behind a cubicle, and Skip finally turns back to Monty. So Shara came over. Monty fist bumps Skip in acknowledgement. Elijah looks at the crowd of truckers in the restaurant. Many men and women talking among strangers, eating off their plates and giving crosstalk between tables. These poor guys, look at them, Sheila. They don't talk to folks face to face for hours on end. So they're happy to see each other. Someone here, one of these people, they're going to be lucky. They're going to let us hitch a ride. Sheila's sarcasm drips out. Joy, why are we hitching a ride? Well, if Grick can find us, anybody can find us. Oh, Elijah, I thought you didn't want me getting too snuggly with any of these guys. The thoughts swirl around Elijah's head. Well, you'll have a chaperone. I just want you to find one of these guys and barter with them. Say you and a friend are got a medical card and CDLA class with hazmat going to Rochester. I'll be getting everything bundled up and head back in here to meet with you at the entryway with our newfound driver friend. If nothing else, say we need a ride to Alderaan, and we'll sell the speeder to bonus them for getting us out of here real quick. Are we going to fuck him? Oh, no, Sheila. We're not going to fuck him. Also, get your hitter box. You're going to have to get a new one when we get to where we're going. She tilts her head and glares at Elijah. Sheila, do you want to get searched when we hit a scale house? Fine. Okay, I'm going to pause this. Monte Williams is the lead FBI investigator out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Alan Richardson and Skip Cook are two cops that are out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and they all kind of work in the same building. Monty's been trying to chase down Elijah. Disease? What disease? What disease, Eddie? Give you a moment here in the chat to put it in. Okay. I'll read it whenever you put it in here. So, we don't want to get searched when we hit a skill house, Sheila. Fine. Elijah knows that things aren't fine when fine is uttered. He heads to the car and gets everything put into a backpack. Making sure he gets her iPod before he shuts the door, he places the keys under the visor, then locks it. Back inside the truck stop. Oh, mention cards. Hold on. Yeah, a medical card and a CDL with a hazmat endorsement, possibly placarded items. Elijah's spitting just some verbiage at her, and I don't think she gets it. He heads back to the car and puts everything into a backpack, making sure he gets her iPod before he shuts the door. He places the keys under the visor, then locks it. Back inside, he browses the rack in the store for a new set of driving gloves. Passing through the fingerless variety, he hears Sheila scowl. You're not getting fingerless gloves. I thought all drivers wore fingerless. Elijah keeps his mouth shut. Swiveling to face her, he sees that she's standing next to a big and tall hombre man. A goofy grin spreads across Elijah's face, imitating the one on the driver she selected. The smell of greasy pork wafts from the dining area into the store. Have you ate yet? The man looks like he is every bit of 350 pounds. Wearing a John Deere ball cap and a shirt with his faded overalls, he pats his belly. We just did, but we can sit and chat with you while you're chawing. Elijah smiles. Well, we don't say chawing, not us from Iowa. Elijah nods. You know, Illinois is the center of the universe. He puts his hand out. I'm Elijah Branch. The trucker claps at Harvey Putnam. Harvey's going to Rochester. Sheila puts her arm around Elijah and pulls him close. The trucker's eyes narrow for a moment. Yes, I am. You drive a reefer truck? Anything with wheels. Elijah pulls out his Missouri driver's license and places it in Harvey's hand. I knew a Harvey once. I have to thank him if I ever see that man again. Harvey looks at it. Says you've got a hazmat here. I don't need that. I just need a driver. He waves at two back into the restaurant. They sit and watch Harvey order a plate of bacon and sausage. No eggs, no pancakes, just a pile of truck stop bacon and countless lengths of sausage. I can drive in shifts. 10 hours good for you? Elijah asks. Hell yes. Elijah nods. Sheila nods. Harvey nods. And he orders a second plate. After he puts it through his mouth, he gets up to use the restroom. Standing over Elijah, he looks into his eyes. I'd appreciate it if you cover my bill from here to there, and I'll consider everything paid. Elijah puts his hand up. No farting indoors, Elijah commands, without his eyes averting away from the benefactor. Another handshake, and the large man ambles between customers and staff to finish his business. What the fuck, Elijah? Sheila whispers, leaning into him. He must have been your first mark, huh? You know, if his arteries clog while we're on the asphalt, you got the balls to early AM shift, right, honey? Sheila, I can't drive one of those things. Then what the hell are you doing getting the largest risk on the highway as our road tripping buddy? Listen, Elijah, nobody said New York. You don't ask. You tell people they're headed to Rochester and you buffalo them into it. You're a woman. She gasps. I'm not renting my vajayjay for the trip out east of all places. At least you'll admit that it's available for rent. The half-orc stands up. I'm keeping my hitter box, Elijah. She whispers to his back, and some customers turning to watch a possible altercation. Elijah turns around with a pointed index finger in her face. I know. That moment at the cross was just for grins, right? Oh, like we won't get hit with what you got? For all I know, you have way worse. Elijah purses his lips, and Harvey's voice rolls from behind him. Lover's spat? Elijah doesn't respond to him, but heads to the register to pay for the meal. Sheila flips him the bird behind his back. As they walk to his Freightliner rig, Harvey looks at him. You two going to be okay for a while I get some sleep? I'm going to need an address. Oh, I've already written it up on the windshield for my own needs. Getting in a diesel-fueled tractor, Elijah verifies the directions to Buffalo from memory. By the time we're getting into town, wake me up. Harvey lays on the lower bunk. Elijah releases both trailer and tractor brakes and eases it into second gear. While he remains silent, his knee bumps into the backpack, sitting upright next to the driver and passenger seats. Did you get my iPod, or did I lose that in my previous life too? I forgive you. Elijah reaches down between the fifth and sixth gears and opens his backpack. He lets the tractor pull itself to the exit of the truck stop before he simultaneously hits the brakes and the clutch. Getting to her the iPod, he downshifts all the way back to second gear. You've done this before, haven't you? Harvey asks. Well, when you're satisfied how I drive, pull the curtain shut and get your sleep, partner. Shit. But on the ramp, pull over and get the logbook for yourself started. I need everything legal and stuff. Elijah nods, noting 3 logbooks resting against Harvey's bunk. Okay. Uh-huh. Yeah, Sheila, I can do anything. I am woman. Monty looks for the incoming message on his desktop monitor. He squints his eyes initially, then blinks several times. Shaking his head, he tosses the Red Robin wrappers and drink in the garbage can. Hey, Skip, come here and get your garbage. It's not my desk, Monty. But come here anyway. Skip closes the previous window of his wife, Janie, in the bathing suit, rolls his chair over to Monty's desk. Opening the email in his desktop browser, both men are surprised to see a roadside camera picture. It's a car lot in front of a Flying J truck stop. Skip looks to his coworker. So you got a truck stop that's overlooked by a Century-style camera, same upgraded system they use all over the states for the fast lane toll roads. Monty's eyes focuses. He leans in after he nods. The picture zooms in on a car on a corner and cleans up the image. The plates match the information that Alan Richardson keyed in before lunch. On the panel doors is the emblazoned words, Elijah's Pest Control Service. Under this is a pair of St. Louis area code phone numbers. I'll get the Highway Patrol and ISP on this. Monty pauses and looks back to Skip. There isn't a Highway Patrol per se in Illinois. It's either state or municipal. Skip keys it in rapidly on his computer terminal. Fine, I got it. Should I get your plane ticket ready too? Skip, not until they have him. Skip looks back at his coworker. You think he's already gone? Monty nods. Put a word in the interstate access scale houses to detain any half-orc with vitals and identification. I'd be willing to bet he's going to try to switch rides. Skip shakes his head, then nods. You're really into this guy, aren't you? Monty, rubbing his temples. Cost me everything I got. He rubs his bare finger ring on his left hand. Monty, what the hell did he do to you? Monty snorts. About 10 years ago, I was in college, my freshman year. I still did motocross, the adventure stuff. Images of bikes ripping through the air off hills flashed through Monty's mind. Oh, hell. Skip slaps his knees. Monty's eyes panned Skip, now sitting astride his desk. It was a Brookfield track just over in Indiana. He thinks about it. Monte Williams is in third place. Ahead of him is this newcomer, Elijah Branch. In the pole position with 2 laps around a modified oval track is a halfling rider, Gary Jackson. His long mustache and goatee whipping about the interior of the helmet, the small rider has a modified bike to compensate for his lighter weight. Monty sees a chicane up ahead. Gary will whip about, using his bike to maneuver through a snake through the water. Maneuver through the water like a snake. My bad. On the left side of the track, a pair of hills rise, one in front of the other. Between this, the unfavorable conditions have already claimed one accident in this race. Elijah cranks hard on the throttle. A hard acceleration is immediately heard. Monty's finger twiddles a pen. Monty mimics Elijah, and he follows his lead while Gary cuts off a safety on the dirt. Elijah feels a 550cc purr under his hips. The bike presses into him, and he angles up with a mound of dirt. Monty keeps the throttle wide open, and ahead of the trio, the track angles into a sweeping right turn. Gary, standing on his pegs, almost riding his bike like a horse, he leans in and out of the turns very fast, and his bike responds quickly. Elijah's bike lands properly on the soft dirt. He's already leaning right and keeping it at 80 miles per hour. Monty follows, watching his adversaries. He leans less, but doesn't let off the throttle. Drifting through a bank turn, he keeps a masterful hold on his position with a good racing line, not realizing that Elijah is actually overtaking the lead with the ride high through the turn. He keeps his concentration on the moment. Gary Jackson leans on the turn, letting the curve straighten out. He shifts up and sees out of his peripheral vision an opponent coming off the bank, almost wide open. No! He screams in anger, and the bike loses control for a very important moment. Well, I guess I really could blame Gary Jackson at that moment for my failure to capture my trophy. Monty stops twiddling with a pen. But GJ died that day. At least I think he did. The small halfling and his motorbike careen off of Monty's back tire. Monty's bike flips up, the rider seeing the world spin away and then rapidly spin back, and dirt cakes his helmet. Not a big fan of this man, this half-orc, are you? Monty shakes his head. I had a better plan. Drift as much as possible. Keep it around 75 to 80, keeping the ass to the left. I was catching up with Elijah Branch. Skip nods. Once when I was in 5th grade, Ernie Gordon bumped my spot in line at the water fountain. He gets up off the desk, holding his stomach. We're going to pause right there and continue this probably tomorrow night. Hetty, it was a beautiful night to read this, and I appreciate the ability to do so. It's just getting late, and I need to get some rest. But I hope you have yourself a great night, and I should see you on Tuesday and maybe Wednesday as well. I want to finish this book. We're at the halfway mark. Really appreciate you being here for this. Got some other people in the other chats there, and appreciate those guys too. Hedy Lamarr, one of the smartest ladies of the early 20th century. Yes, indeed. Okay. For those of you that want to know, I wrote Elijah's story. I'd gotten tired of the show 24, and it was needing to be improved upon, and it wasn't really doing that. So I wrote this. We're at page 233. Good night, Hetty. Glad you enjoyed it, hon. Really am glad you enjoyed it. Thank you.